Cole Brennan pressed his lips against his daughter's burning forehead and felt death creeping closer with each shallow breath she took. 5 days since Lily had refused every bottle, every desperate attempt to keep her alive. 5 days of watching his 3-month-old baby waste away in his arms while the December blizzard of 1878 buried his Montana ranch under 6 feet of snow and silence. The knock that shattered the night wasn't salvation. It was a ghost. But before I tell you what happened when Cole opened that door, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. And trust me, you'll want to stay until the very end, because what happened next changed 3 lives forever. The kerosene lamp flickered. Cole didn't move to steady it. Didn't care if the whole damn cabin burned down around him. At least then, it would be over. At least then he wouldn't have to feel this anymore. This helpless, crawling terror that wrapped around his chest like barbed wire and squeezed tighter every time Lily made that sound, that weak, threadbare cry that barely qualified as noise anymore. "Come on, baby girl." His voice cracked. "Just a little, please." He tilted the bottle against her lips. Goat's milk, same as yesterday, same as the day before, same failure. Lily's mouth moved against the rubber nipple. Her tiny tongue pushed at it. Then nothing. She turned her face away with what little strength she had left, and Cole felt something inside him tear. Not break. It had already broken when Grace died 6 weeks ago. This was deeper. This was the sound a man's soul makes when it finally gives up. "Lily!" He was begging now, begging a 3-month-old baby who couldn't understand that she was killing him by dying. "Please, sweetheart, for Papa, just try." She didn't try. She just cried, that thin, reedy sound that was getting quieter every hour. Cole stood, started pacing. He'd been pacing for 5 days straight. His boots had worn a track in the floorboards, from the door to the stove, to the window, to Lily's cradle, and back again. Over and over, a desperate circle that went nowhere and solved nothing. Outside, the wind screamed. Inside, his daughter was starving to death. And Cole Brennan, who'd survived 3 years of war, who'd built this ranch from raw land and determination, who'd never backed down from a fight in his life, couldn't do a goddamn thing to stop it. The clock on the mantel struck 10. Grace's grandmother's clock, brought all the way from Virginia in a wagon that nearly broke twice. Grace had loved that clock, said it reminded her of home. Home? What a joke. This wasn't a home anymore. It was a tomb. Cole looked down at Lily. Her eyes were closed, but her face was scrunched up in that expression babies make when they're in pain and don't understand why. Her little fists waved weakly. She was so light. Too light. When had she gotten this light? "I'm sorry." The words came out strangled. "Baby girl, I'm so sorry. I don't know what else to do. I've tried everything. He had. God knows he had. The Henderson Ranch, 8 miles south. They'd sent over cow's milk, fresh and warm. Lily refused it. Old Doc Morrison, before the snows got too deep. He'd suggested honey water, sugar water, weak broth. Nothing worked. Even tried hiring a wet nurse from town. Put out word he'd pay anything, any amount. But nobody came. Nobody wanted to ride 15 miles through a Montana blizzard to Iron Creek Ranch. Not even for money. Not even to save a dying baby. So Cole had nailed up a sign at the gate, painted it himself with shaking hands. "Baby starving. Need help. Will pay anything." Pathetic. That's what it was. But desperation made men pathetic. The fire in the stove was dying. Cole should add wood, keep the cabin warm. But he couldn't put Lily down, couldn't let go. If these were her last hours, God, please, no. But if they were, she needed to know her papa was here, that she wasn't alone. Grace would have known what to do. Grace always knew. She'd had that calm, practical way about her, never panicked. Even when the fever started, even when Doc Morrison shook his head and said there was nothing more to be done, Grace had stayed calm. "Take care of our girl," she'd whispered at the end, her hand in his burning hot. "Promise me, Cole. Promise. I promise. I swear to God, Grace. I'll, no matter what it takes, no matter how hard it gets, keep her safe." He'd promised. He'd sworn on everything holy. And now he was breaking that promise, breaking it as surely as his heart was breaking, as surely as Lily's tiny body was breaking down from lack of food. Cole moved to the window, pressed his forehead against the cold glass. Outside, the world was nothing but white, snow falling thick and heavy, the wind pushing it into drifts that buried fence posts and made the landscape unrecognizable. Nobody was coming. Nobody could come. The storm had been raging for 3 days solid. The trail to town was impassable. Even if someone wanted to help, they couldn't reach him. They were alone. Him and Lily, alone with death. "Your mama," he whispered against Lily's downy hair. "Your mama was the strongest person I ever knew. She survived the trip west in a wagon train, survived losing her parents to cholera, survived 3 years of drought and 1 year of floods, and didn't complain once." His voice broke. "She would have known how to fix this. She would have known how to save you." Lily let out another weak cry, weaker than before. "No, no, 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 no." Cole's chest constricted. His vision blurred. He blinked hard, but the tears came anyway. Silent, useless, falling onto Lily's blanket and disappearing like they'd never existed. "Don't leave me." The words tore out of him, raw, desperate. "Please, baby girl, don't leave me too. I can't lose you both. I can't." The wind hammered the cabin walls. The lamp flickered again, throwing shadows that looked like creatures crawling across the ceiling. The clock ticked, time passing, time running out. Cole sank into the rocking chair, started that automatic motion. Rock, bounce, whisper, repeat. It was all he had left, this mechanical comfort that wasn't comfort at all, but movement for movement's sake, something to do when there was nothing to be done. Lily's crying had stopped. That should have been good. That should have meant she was settling. But Cole knew better. She wasn't settling. She was too weak to cry anymore. "No." He jostled her gently. "No, sweetheart, stay awake. Stay with me." Her eyes fluttered open. Gray eyes. His eyes. Grace used to joke that Lily got Cole's eyes, and Grace's stubbornness, and between the two, they'd created a force of nature. But there was no force left now. Just a fading spark in gray eyes that looked too big for her tiny face. "That's my girl." Cole's voice shook. "That's my strong girl. Just hold on a little longer. Please. Just knock, knock, knock." The sound exploded through the cabin like gunfire. Cole's head snapped up. His heart slammed against his ribs. For a moment, one impossible, suspended moment. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what he'd just heard. Someone was at the door. In this storm, in this isolated hell, someone was knocking. Knock, knock, knock. Louder now, more desperate. And underneath it, barely audible over the wind, a voice. "Please, is anyone there? Please." A woman's voice. Cole surged to his feet. Lily still clutched against his chest. He crossed the cabin in 4 long strides and threw the bolt. The door burst inward. Wind and snow exploded into the room, stealing heat and breath. And standing in the midst of it all, illuminated by lamplight that seemed to glow around her like a halo, was a woman. She was soaked. Her dark cloak hung heavy with ice, plastered to a frame that shook with violent shivers. Her hood had fallen back, dark hair, brown or black, hard to tell, matted against a face so pale it was almost translucent. But it was her eyes that stopped Cole's heart. Haunted, that's what they were. Wide and dark, and filled with a desperation that mirrored his own. "Please," she gasped the word through chattering teeth. "I got lost. The storm. My horse threw me. I just need." She swayed. Cole's free arm shot out, catching her before she collapsed. "Get inside. Now!" She stumbled across the threshold. Cole slammed the door shut behind her, threw the bolt, and suddenly the cabin felt too small, too full. This stranger dripping snow on his floor, shaking like she might come apart at the seams. And then her gaze dropped to Lily. Everything changed. The woman's face transformed. The desperation shifted into something else, something Cole couldn't name, but recognized in his bones. Her eyes fixed on the baby in his arms with an intensity that should have alarmed him, but alarm required energy Cole didn't have. "You have a baby." Her voice came out barely above a whisper. "My daughter, Lily." "How old?" 3 months. The words scraped out of him. "Her mother, my wife, died 6 weeks ago. And Lily, she won't." He couldn't finish, couldn't say it out loud again. Lily made a sound, that weak, threadbare cry. And the woman flinched, actually flinched, like the sound had physically struck her. Her hands rose toward the baby, then dropped, then rose again, trembling. "She's hungry." "Not a question." "Starving." Cole's voice cracked on the word. "She won't take a bottle. Won't eat. I've tried everything, every goddamn thing, and she's dying. She's..." His voice failed completely. The woman stared at Lily. Her breathing had changed, gotten faster, shallower, like she was fighting some internal battle Cole couldn't see. Then he saw it, a dark stain spreading across the front of her wet dress, starting small, then growing, spreading outward from her chest. Milk. The woman's body was leaking milk. Cole's brain stuttered, stopped, restarted. "You're..." He couldn't form the words. The woman looked down at herself, at the wetness seeping through her clothes, and the sound she made was half laugh, half sob. "I had a baby." The words tumbled out in a rush. "A son, James. He was 4 months old when the fever took him. That was 7 months ago. 7 months, and my body still." She broke off, her hands flying to her chest, pressing against the dampness. When she looked up, her face was a mask of anguish. "I tried to stop it. Tried everything, binding, herbs, everything the doctor said. But it won't stop. Like my body doesn't know he's gone. Like it's still waiting for him to." She couldn't finish, just stood there sobbing, her whole body shaking with more than cold. And Cole stood frozen, his mind racing, processing, understanding. A baby. She'd lost her baby, and her body was still producing milk, still trying to feed a child who would never need feeding again. Lily let out another cry, weaker than before, and Cole made his decision. "Can you?" His voice came out rough, desperate. "Would you be willing to feed her?" The question hung in the air, enormous, impossible. The woman stared at him, her mouth opened, closed. Tears streamed down her face, cutting tracks through the grime and melted snow. "I don't know if I can." Her voice shook. James was so small when I don't know if there's enough, if it would even. "Please." Cole took a step toward her, then another, until he was close enough to see the gold flecks in her dark eyes, close enough to see the war being waged behind them. "Please. She's dying. I've tried everything. And she's dying. And I can't lose her too." The words came out strangled, broken. Everything Cole had held together for 6 weeks, for 5 days, for every endless moment since Grace died, it all came crashing down. "Please, save my daughter." The woman looked from his face to Lily's, back to his face. Something was happening behind her eyes, some battle between fear and hope and desperate, aching need. Then, slowly, her hands moved to the buttons of her dress. "Yes." The word came out, barely louder than breath. "Give her to me." Cole's hands shook as he moved Lily toward her. The woman's arms came up, ready to receive the baby. And for one heartbeat, one eternal suspended moment, Cole couldn't do it. Couldn't release his daughter to this stranger. But then the woman spoke again. "It's all right." Her voice was soft now, steady despite the tears still falling. "I know how to do this. I remember." Something in her tone, the certainty, the gentle confidence, broke through Cole's paralysis. He placed Lily in the woman's arms. She took the baby with practiced ease, positioned her with the sureness of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Her hands knew exactly how to support Lily's head, how to angle her body, how to bring her close. "What's your name?" Cole's voice came out hoarse. "Rose." She was already unbuttoning her dress further. "Rose McKenna." "Cole Brennan." Rose nodded, but her attention was already on Lily. Everything in her, her entire focus, her whole being, had narrowed down to the baby in her arms. She managed to open her dress and chemise enough to expose her breast. Even in his desperation, Cole felt he should look away, should give her privacy. He couldn't tear his eyes away from this moment, this impossible, miraculous moment. Rose brought Lily to her breast, guided the baby's mouth with gentle fingers, and for one agonizing second, nothing happened. Lily's lips brushed against Rose's nipple, moved weakly, then stopped. Cole's heart stopped with them. No. God, no. She was too weak, too far gone. It wasn't going to. Lily latched. The change was instantaneous, absolute. Lily's mouth closed around Rose's nipple, and suddenly, she was sucking. Really, truly sucking, with a strength Cole hadn't seen in 5 days. Rose let out a sound, half gasp, half sob. Her free hand came up to cup Lily's head, fingers threading through fine baby hair. "Oh," the word broke from her. "Oh, sweetheart. There you go." Lily nursed with desperate intensity. Her throat worked, swallowing, taking in the milk her body had been screaming for. Cole couldn't breathe, couldn't move, could only stand there watching his daughter feed for the first time in 5 days. Watching this stranger, this ghost who'd appeared out of a blizzard, give life back to his baby. Rose was crying harder now, her whole body shaking with sobs. But she held Lily steady, held her close, and whispered words Cole couldn't quite hear. He realized he was crying too. Silent tears streaming down his face. 6 weeks of holding it together, 5 days of desperate terror. All of it breaking apart now, breaking open. He sank to his knees beside Rose's chair. One hand came up to rest on Lily's back, feeling her breathe, feeling her live. His other hand found Rose's arm, gripped it, maybe too tight, but he couldn't help it, couldn't let go. "Thank you." The words came out choked. "Thank you. Thank you." Rose turned her tear-streaked face toward him, and for the first time since she'd stumbled through his door, she smiled. It was a broken, grief-soaked smile, but it was real. "Thank you," she whispered back. "You don't understand. I thought I'd never." Her voice failed, but Cole understood. He understood that she'd lost her purpose when she lost her son, that her body's refusal to stop producing milk had been torture and lifeline both, that in this moment, feeding a stranger's dying baby, she'd found something she thought was gone forever. They stayed like that, Cole kneeling, Rose sitting, Lily nursing between them, while the storm raged outside, and the lamp burned steady, and something impossible knitted itself together in that small Montana cabin. Lily's suckling slowed from desperate to contented. Her eyes drifted closed. Her little fists relaxed against Rose's skin. "She's fallen asleep." Rose's voice held wonder. When did she last sleep like this? Before Grace died. Cole had to force the words out. "She's been fitful, crying. She knew something was wrong. Babies always know." Rose looked down at Lily with an expression that made Cole's chest ache. Tender, protective, full of a love that transcended biology. "They always know." Silence fell. Not awkward, just full, heavy with everything unspoken. Finally, Cole cleared his throat. "You should. You're still soaking wet. You need dry clothes. Warmth." Rose nodded but didn't move. Couldn't seem to tear her eyes away from Lily. "I'll get you something." Cole stood stiffly. His knees protested. How long had he been kneeling? "My wife's things. They should fit." He moved to the trunk in the corner. Hadn't opened it since the funeral. Couldn't face it. But now he lifted the lid, and Grace's scent rose up, lavender and sunshine and everything he'd lost. His hands shook as he pulled out a dress. Wool, dark green, practical. Grace had worn it for ranch work. When he turned back, Rose had shifted Lily to her other breast. The baby was still nursing, still taking everything Rose's body offered. "How long since you've slept?" Rose asked softly. 5 days? Cole set the dress on the table. "Maybe longer. I don't remember." "You should rest." "Can't." He shook his head. "Not until I'm sure that she'll be all right." "Until you're sure she'll be all right," Rose finished for him. "Yeah." They fell silent again. Outside, the wind was lessening, the worst of the storm passing. Inside, warmth was slowly returning. Not just from the fire, from something else. Something neither of them could name yet. Lily finished nursing, completely milk-drunk. Her mouth fell open in that boneless relaxation only fully satisfied babies achieve. "I should put her down," Rose said, but her arms tightened almost imperceptibly. "Or you could hold her." The words came out before Cole could stop them. "Just for a while, if you want." Rose's eyes filled again. "Are you sure?" "Yeah." Cole's throat was too tight. "Yeah, I'm sure." So Rose held Lily, rocked her gently, hummed something soft and wordless. And Cole watched them both, this stranger and his daughter, and felt the first whisper of something that wasn't quite hope, but wasn't despair either. Something in between. Something that might eventually become something else. But that was a thought, for later, for when the storm passed, and the world returned, and decisions had to be made. Right now, there was only this. Lily sleeping, Rose holding her, and Cole breathing for what felt like the first time in 5 days. His daughter was going to live. Everything else could wait. Rose held Lily until her arms went numb. Even then, she didn't want to let go. Couldn't. This weight against her chest, solid, warm, breathing, filled a hole she'd thought would stay empty forever. You should change. Cole's voice broke through her trance. Get out of those wet clothes before you catch your death. Rose looked down. Her dress was still damp, clinging to her skin like ice. She'd stopped shivering an hour ago. That wasn't good. That meant her body was giving up the fight. I don't want to wake her. I'll take her. Cole stood, moved closer. His hands hovered near Lily, waiting. Rose's arms tightened instinctively. Then she caught herself, forced herself to loosen her grip. This wasn't her baby. Wasn't her right to hold. She transferred Lily carefully. Cole took his daughter with the reverence of a man handling something precious and fragile. Something he'd almost lost. The bedroom's through there. He nodded toward a door. Take whatever you need. Rose stood on unsteady legs. Everything hurt. Her feet felt like blocks of ice. Her fingers wouldn't bend properly. How long had she been walking through that storm? Days? Time had lost meaning somewhere between her horse throwing her and the moment she'd seen Cole's lamplight burning in the distance. The bedroom was small, sparse. A bed with a handmade quilt, a dresser, a trunk at the foot of the bed. Nothing fancy, but everything spoke of care, of a woman's touch. Grace, Cole's wife, the woman whose place Rose was about to take, at least temporarily, at least for tonight. Rose's hands shook as she unbuttoned her dress. The fabric was frozen stiff in places. Her fingers fumbled, finally got it open, peeled the wet layers away from her skin. Her breasts were swollen, painful. They'd been leaking for hours. The binding she'd worn had come loose somewhere during her journey. Now milk dripped freely, soaking her chemise, running down her ribs in warm rivulets that felt obscene. She grabbed a towel from the washstand, pressed it against her chest. The pressure hurt. Everything hurt. James, her baby, her beautiful boy with his father's dark eyes and serious expression, gone 7 months, and her body still didn't understand, still prepared meals for a mouth that would never eat again. Until tonight. Tonight, that milk had saved a life. Rose's knees buckled. She sat hard on the edge of the bed and let herself cry, really cry. Not the silent tears she'd shed while nursing Lily. These were the ugly, gasping sobs she'd been holding back for months. The ones that came from a place so deep, they felt like they'd tear her apart. A knock on the door made her freeze. Rose? Cole's voice uncertain. You all right in there? Fine. Her voice came out strangled. I'm fine. You don't sound fine. I said I'm fine. Silence. Then, she's sleeping. Close enough that she could hear him breathing. Rose waited for him to leave. Instead, she heard him sit down outside the door, close enough that she could hear him breathing. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I didn't want to wake you. You should have, Rose said, trying to pull herself together. She needs to eat every few hours. Babies don't care about anyone's sleep schedule. She said it lightly, but the words hit different in the gray morning light, because they meant she'd be here for days, weeks maybe, however long it took to get Lily strong enough to transition to bottles, however long it took to figure out what the hell they were doing. Lily latched desperately. Rose winced at the initial pain. Her breasts were engorged again, painfully full. But then relief flooded through her as the pressure eased. Cole moved to the stove, started building up the fire. His movements were mechanical, practiced. A man who'd been doing this alone for too long. Storm's easing. He didn't turn around. I can see the barn from here. That's something. How much snow? 4 feet, maybe more. Drifts are higher. Trail to town will be buried for days. Rose should have felt trapped, should have panicked at being snowed in with a stranger. Instead, she felt oddly calm, like this was exactly where she was supposed to be. I need to check the animals, Cole said, still facing the stove. Make sure they survive the night. You'll be all right here with Lily. We'll be fine. He turned then, looked at her, really looked, and something in his expression made Rose's breath catch. Thank you. His voice was raw. For this. For her. Don't. Rose cut him off gently. You don't need to keep thanking me. Yes, I do. Cole's hands clenched at his sides. You saved her life. I'll be thanking you every day for the rest of mine. Rose's throat tightened. Cole, I mean it. He held her gaze. Whatever happens next, whatever we have to figure out, I need you to know that. He left before she could respond, the door closing behind him with a soft click. Rose sat in the growing dawn light, Lily nursing contentedly, and felt the weight of Cole's words settle over her like a blanket. Whatever happens next. What would happen next? She couldn't stay here forever, couldn't play house with a grieving widower, and pretend it was sustainable. Eventually, the storm would end, the roads would clear, and people would notice that Cole Brennan had a strange woman living in his cabin, nursing his dead wife's baby. The gossip would be vicious. Rose knew how small towns worked. She'd lived in one her whole life, had felt the whispers after her husband died, had endured the pitying looks after James passed, had heard the carefully worded suggestions that maybe she should move away, start fresh somewhere people didn't know her story. She'd been trying to do exactly that when the storm hit, and now here she was, right back in the same situation. But worse, because at least before, she'd been a respectable widow. Tragic, yes. Pitiable, certainly. But respectable. A woman living alone with a man, nursing his child. That was something else entirely. That was scandal. Lily finished nursing. Rose shifted her to the other breast. The baby was already gaining weight. Rose could feel it, could see color returning to Lily's cheeks, could hear strength in her cries. It was working. Against all odds, this impossible arrangement was working. Rose heard Cole outside, the sound of a shovel scraping snow. He was clearing a path to the barn, making sure his livestock survived. She wondered if Grace had helped with that, if she'd been the kind of woman who worked alongside her husband, or if she'd stayed inside, keeping the home fires burning. Rose wondered a lot of things about Grace. What she'd looked like, how she'd sounded, whether she'd been happy here, in this isolated cabin with a man who clearly loved her desperately, whether Grace would hate Rose for taking her place. The door opened. Cole stamped snow off his boots. His face was red from cold, his breath coming in white clouds. Animals are fine. Lost a chicken to the cold, but the rest made it. He moved to the fire, held out his hands. I'll make breakfast. You've got your hands full. I can cook after she's done. You nursed all night and you're exhausted. I can handle eggs and bacon. Rose opened her mouth to argue, closed it. The truth was she was exhausted, bone-deep tired, in a way she hadn't been since James was alive. But it was a good tired, a purposeful tired, the tired of a mother. Don't think like that, she warned herself. You're not her mother. You're just helping, temporarily. But her arms holding Lily didn't believe that. Her body producing milk for this baby didn't believe it either. Cole cooked in silence. The smell of bacon filled the cabin. Rose's stomach growled. She couldn't remember the last time she'd been hungry. Really hungry. Not just eating because she had to, but actually wanting food. "How many eggs?" Cole asked. "3. He glanced back, raised an eyebrow. "What? Nursing makes you hungry?" Rose felt her face heat. "I need to eat more to keep my milk supply up." I wasn't judging, just surprised. Grace used to eat like a bird. Drove me crazy. I'd cook these big meals, and she'd pick at them. It was the first time he'd mentioned Grace voluntarily. Rose held very still, afraid if she moved, he'd stop talking. She was always cold, too. Cole's voice went soft. Even in summer. Used to wear shawls and complain about the Montana wind. Said she missed Virginia. Missed the humidity and the dogwoods and the way thunderstorms rolled in slow, instead of just exploding out of nowhere. Why'd she come west? Same reason everyone does. Fresh start. Her family lost everything after the war. She answered an ad for a teacher in Helena. Met me when I came to town for supplies. He smiled faintly. She was trying to manage a classroom of 30 kids in a one-room schoolhouse. Half of them didn't want to be there. She looked about, ready to cry. "What did you do?" "Offered to fix the school's door. It was hanging crooked." She said yes. I came back the next day with my tools. He plated the eggs. Took me 3 days to fix that door. Could have done it in an hour, but I kept finding more things that needed fixing. Rose smiled despite herself. Subtle. Not even a little. Cole brought her a plate. She knew what I was doing. Called me on it the 3rd day. Said if I wanted to court her, I should just ask instead of inventing problems with her schoolhouse. Did you? Asked her to dinner that night. Married her 6 months later. His smile faded. Built this cabin with my own hands. Promised her I'd make it the finest ranch in Montana. Give her everything she'd lost. And more. He stopped. Stared at the plate in his hands. I couldn't even keep her alive. "Cole!" Rose's voice came out fierce. "The fever wasn't your fault." "Wasn't it? Maybe if I'd gotten the doctor sooner, maybe if I'd..." "Stop." Rose shifted Lily to her shoulder, met Cole's eyes. "You can't think like that." I did, after James died. I drove myself half mad with maybes. Maybe if I'd noticed his fever earlier. Maybe if I'd tried different herbs. Maybe if I'd prayed harder. What changed? Nothing. I still think them. Rose's voice cracked. But I'm learning to live with them anyway. Cole set the plate on the table, sat down heavily, put his head in his hands. Rose wanted to go to him, wanted to touch his shoulder, offer comfort. But her arms were full of his daughter, his wife's daughter. And the intimacy of that gesture felt like crossing a line. "Eat!" Cole's voice was muffled. "Food's getting cold." Rose managed to eat one-handed. Lily had fallen asleep against her shoulder. The baby was warm and heavy, her breath coming in soft puffs against Rose's neck. This, Rose thought, this is what I've been missing. This purpose, this feeling of being needed. It was dangerous to feel this way. She knew that, knew she was setting herself up for more heartbreak. But she couldn't help it. Couldn't stop herself from falling just a little bit in love with this baby, who wasn't hers. 3 days passed. The storm finally broke on the 4th morning. Cole dug paths through chest-high snow, checked on his cattle, assessed damage, lost 2 more chickens and part of his fence. Could have been worse. Rose settled into a routine, feed Lily every 3 hours, sleep when the baby slept, help Cole with small tasks around the cabin, cook, clean, pretend this was normal. Pretend she belonged here. On the 5th day, Cole rode to town. Rose didn't want him to go, felt a spike of fear when he saddled his horse. What if something happened? What if he didn't come back? But she couldn't say that. Had no right to those feelings. I'll be back before dark. Cole adjusted his saddle. Need supplies, and I should let people know you're here. Safe. Who would care? Someone might. He didn't look at her. You said you had a teaching job waiting in Helena. They might wonder what happened to you. Rose hadn't thought of that. The school, the position she'd accepted. They'd be expecting her. I should write a letter, explain. I'll post it for you. Cole swung into the saddle. Anything else you need? Rose almost said, I need you to come back. Instead, more coffee and sugar, if you can manage it. He nodded, rode out. Rose stood in the doorway with Lily in her arms, watched until horse and rider disappeared into the white landscape. Then she went back inside and tried not to count the hours until his return. Cole made it to town by noon. The trail was rough but passable. Iron Creek was small, barely qualified as a town. General store, blacksmith, saloon, and a church that doubled as a schoolhouse. He tied his horse outside Henderson's general store, stamped snow off his boots, walked in. The conversation stopped. Every head turned, stared. Cole had expected this. Small towns thrived on gossip, and he'd been conspicuously absent for days during a major storm with a strange woman in his cabin. Cole! Martha Henderson stepped forward. She was 50-ish, round, kind-faced. She'd brought food after Grace died, had offered to help with Lily. Thank the Lord you're all right. We were worried. I'm fine. Lily's fine. We heard. Martha glanced at her husband behind the counter. Well, Tom Morrison was out your way before the storm hit. He said he saw a woman at your place. Tom Morrison, the pastor's son. Of course he'd seen Rose, probably saw her arrive that first night. And now the whole town knew. Her name's Rose McKenna. Cole kept his voice even. She got caught in the storm, lost her horse, took shelter at my cabin. I see. Martha's eyes were sharp, assessing. And she's still there? Roads are barely passable. Didn't seem right to send her out in this. No, of course not. But Martha's tone said otherwise. How long do you reckon she'll be staying? Until the weather clears. Cole moved to the counter, started listing supplies, made sure everyone heard, made it clear this was temporary. But he saw the looks, heard the whispers starting even before he left the store. By the time he posted Rose's letter and headed home, the damage was done. The widow Brennan, barely cold in her grave, and already Cole had another woman in his house, living there, alone with him, doing God knows what. The words followed him out of town like wolves. He rode back faster than he should have, found Rose in the rocking chair with Lily. She looked up when he entered, smiled. That smile hit Cole like a fist to the chest. You're back. Said I would be. He set supplies on the table. Town's talking. Rose's smile faded. I figured they would. They know you're here, know you're staying. Cole pulled off his coat. Tom Morrison saw you that first night, told everyone. What are they saying? Cole hesitated, then decided she deserved the truth. That I've taken up with another woman indecently fast. That you're living here improperly. That we're... He stopped. Fornicating under your dead wife's roof. Rose's voice was flat. Something like that. Rose looked down at Lily. I should go. Where? Cole's voice came out harsher than he intended. You've got no horse, no money. Winter's barely started. Where exactly would you go? I don't know, but I can't stay here and ruin your reputation. My reputation? Cole laughed bitterly. Rose, I don't give a damn about my reputation. Let them talk. It's not that simple. You have to live here, do business with these people, and Lily. Rose's voice cracked. When she's older, people will remember. They'll whisper. They'll treat her differently because of me. Or they'll see a man who did whatever it took to keep his daughter alive, including letting a woman stay who could feed her. Rose shook her head. You don't understand how vicious people can be. Don't I? Cole moved closer. Grace and I eloped. You know why? Because her family didn't approve. Said I was beneath her. A rough Western rancher with no education and no prospects. They told her if she married me, they'd disown her. Did they? Never spoke to her again. She died without seeing her parents one more time, without them meeting Lily. His jaw clenched. So yeah, Rose, I know how vicious people can be, and I learned a long time ago not to let their opinions run my life. Rose met his eyes. Hers were wet. What are you saying? I'm saying stay. Stay as long as Lily needs you. As long as you need. He stopped. Just stay. The air between them felt electric, charged with something neither of them wanted to name. Cole. Rose's voice was barely a whisper. We can't. Can't what? This. Whatever this is. She gestured between them. It's too fast. Too complicated. Your wife just died. My son. Her voice broke. We're both grieving. We're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clearly. Are you? Rose stood, Lily still in her arms. Or are you just desperate and lonely and grateful that I saved your daughter? The words hit like bullets. Cole flinched. That's not, isn't it? Rose's eyes blazed. Be honest with yourself, Cole. If Grace were still alive, if I'd knocked on your door under different circumstances, would you even look at me twice? That's not fair. None of this is fair. Rose's voice rose. Lily started fussing. Rose immediately lowered her tone. None of this is fair to anyone. Not to you, not to me, and definitely not to Lily. Lily needs you. Lily needs a mother. That doesn't mean it has to be me. Then who? Cole's voice rose despite himself. Who's going to feed her, Rose? Who's going to love her? Some hired woman who doesn't give a damn? Better that than. Rose stopped, shook her head. I can't do this. She carried Lily into the bedroom, closed the door. Cole stood in the empty main room, fists clenched, heart pounding. She was right. He knew she was right. They were both grieving, both desperate, both clinging to each other, because it was easier than facing their losses alone. But knowing that didn't change how he felt, didn't change the fact that he'd started watching for her smile, started listening for her voice, started imagining a future that included her, started falling for a woman he had no right to want. The bedroom door opened. Rose emerged, her eyes red. I'll stay until Lily can take bottles. Her voice was steady, controlled. Then I'm going to Helena, to that teaching position, and you're going to find proper help. Someone the town won't judge. Someone who can be here without destroying your life. Rose. That's how it has to be, Cole. You know it as well as I do. She was giving him an out, a clean break, a way to protect both of them. He should take it, should agree, should thank her, and let her go when the time came. Instead, he heard himself say, What if I don't want proper help? What if I want you? Rose closed her eyes. Don't. Don't what? Tell the truth? Don't make this harder than it already is. She looked at him then, really looked, and Cole saw his own pain reflected back. Please, Cole, don't. She went back to the bedroom. This time she didn't come out. Cole stood alone in the lamplight, listening to Lily's soft sounds through the door, listening to Rose's quiet crying. And he knew with absolute certainty that he was going to lose her, just like he'd lost Grace, just like he lost everyone he dared to care about. The only question was whether he'd fight for her first or let her walk away without a word. 2 weeks crawled by like wounded animals. Rose and Cole existed in careful orbits around each other, polite, distant, speaking only about Lily's needs and household necessities. The air between them stayed thick with everything unsaid. Lily thrived. She'd gained weight. Her cries were strong now. Her eyes tracked movement. She smiled, real smiles that crinkled her whole face, especially when Rose picked her up. And every smile was a knife in Rose's chest because she was falling in love with this baby, had already fallen if she was honest. And every day that passed made leaving harder, made staying impossible. The morning everything changed, started ordinary enough. Rose was nursing Lily by the fire. Cole was outside splitting wood. The sound of the axe hitting logs came in steady rhythm through the walls. Then hoofbeats, multiple horses. Rose's head snapped up. Her arms tightened instinctively around Lily. Through the window, she saw 3 riders approaching, men, well-dressed. One of them wore a pastor's collar. Her stomach dropped. Cole must have heard them, too. The axe sound stopped. Rose heard his boots crunching through snow, heard him intercept the riders before they reached the cabin. Pastor Williams. Cole's voice carried through the thin walls. Wasn't expecting company. Cole. The pastor's voice was grave. We need to talk. Inside, if you don't mind. I do mind, actually. State your business out here. This concerns the woman you've got living with you, the McKenna widow. Rose's breath caught. She quickly buttoned her dress, stood with Lily. Her legs felt unsteady. Rose is a guest. Cole's voice had gone hard. She's helping with my daughter. So we've heard. Another voice, older. Rose didn't recognize it. The whole town's heard, Cole, about how she's been here 2 weeks now, unchaperoned, living in sin under your roof. Living in sin? Cole's laugh was harsh. She's nursing my daughter. That's all. Is it? The pastor again. Cole, I knew Grace. She was a good woman, a godly woman. Don't dishonor her memory by taking up with the first woman who comes along. Rose heard Cole's sharp intake of breath, heard the barely controlled fury in his voice. You got something to say, Pastor? Say it plain. The church council met yesterday. We're concerned about the situation, about appearances, about what message this sends to the community. I don't give a damn what message. You should. The third man spoke, his voice cold. You do business in this town, Cole. You need these people. And right now, they're talking, saying things about you, about her, things that'll follow you both for years. Rose couldn't breathe. She knew what came next, had known it was coming. But knowing didn't make it hurt less. What do you want? Cole's voice was flat now. Dead. Send her away. The pastor tried for kindness, failed. Today, we'll help you find proper help for the baby. A respectable woman. Someone who won't cause talk. Rose is respectable. She's living alone with a man she's not married to. That's not respectable. That's scandal. Silence. long and terrible. Then Cole, "Get off my land." "Cole, be reasonable." "I said get off my land. All of you, now." "The council isn't going to let this stand." The cold voice again. "We have standards in this community. Morals. We won't have you flaunting them." "Then don't look." Cole's voice was pure steel. "My ranch, my business, not yours. Everything's our business when it affects the community, when it corrupts the youth, when it corrupts." Cole's laugh was ugly. "My daughter was dying. Rose saved her life. That's not corruption. That's mercy. That's grace. Something you self-righteous bastards don't seem to understand. Watch your tongue." "No, you watch yours. Coming to my home, telling me how to live, threatening me on my own land." Rose heard the click of a rifle being cocked. "I won't ask again. Leave." The horses moved, reluctantly, but they moved. "You're making a mistake, Cole." The pastor's voice was sad now. "A terrible mistake. And it's not just you who'll pay for it. Think about Lily. Think about what people will say to her, about her father, about the woman who replaced her mother before the grave was even cold." Rose heard Cole's strangled sound, heard the riders leave, heard silence. Then Cole burst through the door. His face was white, his hands shaking. He looked at Rose, at Lily in her arms, and something broke in his expression. "I'm sorry," his voice cracked. "I'm so goddamn sorry." "Cole, they're right." He moved to the window, stared out. "Not about the sin part, not about that, but about the rest. About Lily. About what this will do to her." Rose's throat closed. "I know. I can't let them hurt her. Can't let my choices destroy her future." He turned, his eyes wet. "But I can't let you go either. Can't go back to being alone with a baby and no idea how to keep her alive. She can take bottles now. She's strong enough." "That's not what I meant." Cole crossed to her, stopped just out of reach. "Rose, these past 2 weeks, watching you with Lily, talking with you in the evenings, having someone here who understands." He stopped. "I'm not ready to lose that. You don't have a choice." "Don't I?" His jaw set. "What if I do? What if there's a way to make this work?" Rose's heart hammered. "There isn't. Marry me." The words fell like stones into still water, creating ripples, changing everything. Rose stared. "What?" "Marry me." Cole said it firmer now. "Today. Tomorrow. Soon as we can get the pastor back here. Make this legitimate. Make you Lily's legal mother. Make them shut their damn mouths." Rose couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. "Cole, you can't." "Why not?" "Because." She shifted Lily, felt tears building. "Because Grace has been dead 6 weeks. Because we barely know each other. Because you're not thinking straight." "I'm thinking perfectly straight." Cole moved closer. "Rose, I know this is fast. I know it's unconventional. But nothing about our situation is normal. And maybe that means we get to make our own rules. People will still talk. Let them. At least they'll be talking about my wife instead of my mistress." Rose flinched at the crude word. "I'm sorry." Cole's voice softened. "But that's what they think. That's what they'll always think unless we make this legal." "And what about what we think?" Rose's voice rose. "What about the fact that you're still in love with Grace? That I'm still grieving James? That we're using each other as bandages for wounds that haven't even started healing? Maybe we are." Cole held her gaze. "Or maybe we're two people who've been broken by loss and are trying to figure out how to survive. Is that really so wrong?" "Yes." Rose was crying now. full tears streaming down her face. Yes, it's wrong, because I'm not Grace. I'll never be Grace. And no matter how much you want me to fill that hole in your life, I can't. I can't be her. I don't want you to be her. Cole's voice was fierce. Rose, I loved Grace. I'll always love Grace. But she's gone, and you're here. And what I feel for you. He stopped, swallowed hard. What I feel for you isn't about replacing Grace. It's separate, different. Maybe it's too soon. Maybe we're both crazy, but it's real. And I think, his voice dropped, I think you feel it too. Rose closed her eyes. It doesn't matter what I feel. It's the only thing that matters. No. She opened her eyes, met his. What matters is doing right by Lily. What matters is not making decisions based on desperation and loneliness and love, Cole finished softly. That's what you can't say, isn't it? That maybe this isn't just about Lily. Maybe it's about us. Rose's chest felt like it was caving in. Cole, please, tell me you don't feel anything. He moved closer. They were inches apart now, Lily between them. Tell me you don't lie awake at night, wondering what would happen if you stayed. Tell me you don't watch me with Lily, and imagine this being permanent. Tell me, Rose, and if you can, I'll never mention it again. Rose looked at him, at this man who'd opened his door in a blizzard, who'd trusted her with his dying daughter, who'd defended her against the town, who was looking at her now like she was the answer to every prayer he'd been afraid to speak. And she couldn't lie. I can't tell you that. Her voice broke. I can't, because it's not true, because I do feel something. Because when I hold Lily, I pretend she's mine. Because when you come back from the barn covered in snow, my heart jumps. Because I'm falling in love with both of you, and it terrifies me. Cole's breath caught. Rose. But that doesn't mean we should get married. That doesn't mean this is right. She stepped back, put distance between them. Love isn't enough, Cole. Not when it's built on grief. Not when we're both still bleeding from losses we haven't processed. Not when the whole town will treat us like pariahs, and Lily will grow up knowing her parents' marriage was scandalous. Or she'll grow up knowing her parents chose each other, chose her, chose family over propriety. Cole's voice was steady now, certain. Rose, I can't promise this will be easy. Can't promise people won't judge. But I can promise I'll stand by you. I can promise I'll fight for us. For all three of us. Rose wanted to say yes. Every cell in her body screamed yes. But her mind, her careful, cautious mind, that had been hurt too many times, held back. I need time. How much time? I don't know. She looked down at Lily. The baby had fallen asleep during their argument, oblivious, perfect. Enough to be sure? Enough to know this isn't just trauma bonding and desperation masquerading as love? Cole's jaw clenched, but he nodded. All right, how much time do we have before you're supposed to be in Helena? The position starts in 3 weeks. 3 weeks? Cole said it like a death sentence. So we have 3 weeks to figure out if this is real, or if we're both just broken people clinging to each other. Yes. And then, if it's real, you'll stay? Marry me. Rose's hands trembled. If it's real, if we're both sure, then yes, I'll stay. And if we decide it's not? Rose couldn't answer that, couldn't imagine walking away from Lily, from Cole, from this life they'd accidentally started building. But she couldn't imagine staying and having it fall apart either. Couldn't imagine Lily growing up in the shadow of a marriage built on quicksand. Then, I go to Helena." Her voice was barely a whisper. "And you find someone else to help. Someone the town will accept." Cole looked like she'd struck him. "You could really do that. Just walk away." "I could do it for Lily." Rose met his eyes. "I'd do anything for her, even leave, if that's what's best." They stood in heavy silence. Lily sleeping between them, the fire crackling. Outside, snow started falling again. Soft, quiet, beautiful, and deadly. 3 weeks, Cole said finally. "We've got 3 weeks to figure out if love is enough. Love isn't the question." Rose's voice was sad. "The question is whether we're ready for it, whether we can be whole enough to offer each other something real, instead of just filling holes. And how do we figure that out? We live." Rose moved to put Lily in her cradle, tucked the blanket around her. "We take care of her. We talk. We be honest about what we're feeling instead of pretending it's all about Lily's needs. And at the end of 3 weeks, we decide." Cole nodded slowly. "All right, 3 weeks. But Rose." "What?" "I'm not giving up on us. I'm going to fight for you every single day." Rose's breath caught. "Cole, no." He held up a hand. "You said be honest about what we're feeling. So here's honesty. I want you to stay. Not just for Lily. For me. For us. And I'm going to spend the next 3 weeks proving to you that this isn't just grief. That what we could have together is worth fighting for." Rose didn't know what to say. Didn't trust her voice. So she just nodded and prayed she was strong enough to survive whatever came next. The days that followed were different, harder, more honest. Cole started talking about Grace, really talking. Not just surface stories, but the hard stuff. The fights they had had, the way she'd struggled with loneliness out here, the postpartum melancholy that had gripped her after Lily's birth, the fear he'd seen in her eyes when the fever came. She was terrified. Cole's voice was rough. They were sitting by the fire, Lily asleep, evening settling in. Not of dying, of leaving Lily. She kept saying, "Promise me you'll find someone. Promise me she won't grow up without a mother." Rose's chest tightened. "What did you say?" "I promised." Cole stared at the flames. "I promised I'd make sure Lily was loved, was cared for, would have everything she needed. I didn't think it would happen this fast." "But Rose," he looked at her, "I think Grace would approve of you, of this." "You can't know that. I knew her for 7 years. Yeah, I can know that." Rose talked about James, about how he'd been fussy, how he'd hated being put down, how she'd walked miles around their small house just to keep him calm. "My husband's mother said I was spoiling him, said I should let him cry, teach him independence." Rose's voice cracked. "But I couldn't stand hearing him cry. So I just held him all the time. And when he died..." She stopped, swallowed hard. "When he died, my arms felt empty, like they'd forgotten their purpose." Cole reached across the space between them, took her hand. "They remember now." Rose looked at their joined hands. "Do they? Or am I just using Lily to fill the James-shaped hole? Does it matter? Lily needs holding. You need to hold. Seems like that works out. It matters if I leave and she loses another mother figure." Cole's hand tightened on hers. "Then don't leave." They talked about fear, about the future, about what marriage would mean, how they'd navigate sleeping arrangements, whether they'd share a bed or keep separate rooms, how long would be appropriate before they made the marriage real in every sense. "I won't rush you." Cole's voice was firm. "However long you need. Months, years, I don't care. Just stay." Rose appreciated that, appreciated his patience, his understanding that what was between them, whatever it was, needed time to grow naturally, couldn't be forced. They talked about the town, about the judgment they'd face, about how to protect Lily from it. "We tell her the truth," Rose said. "When she's old enough, we tell her about Grace, about James, about how sometimes families come together in unexpected ways. And we love her enough that what anyone else says doesn't matter." Cole nodded. Yeah, I like that." 2 weeks passed, then 2.5. The deadline loomed, 4 days left until Rose was supposed to leave for Helena. She hadn't packed, hadn't made arrangements, hadn't done anything except fall deeper in love with Lily and with Cole. She could admit that now, at least to herself. She loved him, loved his steadiness, his fierce protectiveness, the gentle way he held Lily, the careful way he treated Rose like she was something precious that might break. She loved the life they'd built in this cabin, the routine, the quiet evenings, the way Cole sang off-key while he cooked, the way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching. She loved all of it. But love scared her because she'd loved before, loved her husband, loved James, and love hadn't protected them, hadn't saved them. What made her think this would be different? 3 days left. Cole rode to town, came back with a ring. "It's not fancy." He set the small box on the table. "Just a simple gold band, but it's yours if you want it." Rose stared at the box. "Cole, I'm not pressuring you. I'm just preparing, in case you say yes." He moved closer. "Rose, I know you're scared. I'm scared too. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe alone. I'd rather risk this and have it fall apart than never try at all." Rose picked up the box, opened it. The ring was simple, beautiful, exactly what she would have chosen. 3 days. Her voice was barely audible. 3 days, Cole confirmed. "And then you decide. Stay or go. Marry me or don't. Either way, I'll respect your choice." "Even if I leave?" "Even then." His voice was rough. "Though it'll break me, just so you know." Rose closed the box, set it down. "It'll break me too." They stood in silence, the weight of decision hanging between them like a blade. 2 days left. Pastor Williams came back, alone this time. "I owe you an apology, Cole." The old man stood in the doorway, hat in hands. "What I said before, about Rose, about the situation, it was unchristian, unkind." Cole crossed his arms. "What changed your mind?" "Martha Henderson. She came to see me, told me about the night Lily was born, about how Grace made her promise something." The pastor looked at Rose. "Made her promise that if anything happened, she'd make sure Cole found someone to help, someone to love Lily, someone to love him." Rose's breath caught. "Martha said Grace knew she might not survive. The birth was hard, so she made plans. Made Martha swear to help Cole find a good woman if the worst happened." Pastor Williams smiled sadly. "Sounds like Grace brought you here herself, Miss McKenna. Sounds like maybe this was meant to be." Cole's eyes were wet. "She never told me that. She didn't want to scare you, but she was practical, knew a man with a baby couldn't manage alone." The pastor looked between them. "So, if you want to make this official, if you want to marry, I'll perform the ceremony, and I'll tell the council they can go to hell if they object." Rose felt tears sliding down her face. Cole looked at her. "Rose." 1 day left. Rose made her decision. Rose woke before dawn, on what should have been her last day at Iron Creek Ranch. Should have been, but her bag sat empty in the corner. The letter to Helena declining the teaching position, already sealed and ready to mail. She'd made her choice. Now she just had to say it out loud. Lily stirred in the cradle beside the bed. Rose lifted her daughter, because that's what Lily was now, in her heart, and brought her close. The baby rooted immediately, found what she needed without guidance. They'd done this so many times now, it was automatic, natural, right? Your papa asked me to marry him. Rose whispered it against Lily's soft hair. What do you think, little one? Should I say yes? Lily's only answer was the sound of nursing, contented, trusting. Rose closed her eyes, felt tears slip free. But these weren't sad tears. These were the kind that came when something broken finally started healing. I'm going to say yes. The words felt like a vow already. I'm going to stay. I'm going to be your mama. And I'm going to love your papa with everything I've got, even though it terrifies me, even though I don't know if I'm ready, even though. The bedroom door opened. Cole stood there, his hair mussed from sleep, his shirt unbuttoned, eyes still heavy with dreams. He looked young in the gray morning light, vulnerable. I heard you. His voice was rough. I heard what you said. Rose's breath caught. Cole, is it true? He moved closer slowly, like she might spook. You're saying yes? I'm saying yes. Rose's voice shook. I'm terrified and probably crazy and definitely moving too fast, but yes, I'll marry you. Cole crossed the room in 3 strides, dropped to his knees beside the bed, put his hands on either side of Rose and Lily. His eyes were wet. You're sure? No. Rose laughed through tears. I'm not sure of anything except that I love Lily. And She stopped, made herself say it. I love you, Cole. I don't know when it happened. Don't know if it's too soon or too fast or too broken to count, but it's real. And I'm tired of fighting it. Cole let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. He pressed his forehead to hers, careful not to disturb Lily nursing between them. I love you too. His voice cracked. God help me, Rose. I love you so much it scares me. I loved Grace. I'll always love Grace. But what I feel for you is different, Rose finished. I know. I feel it too. It's not betraying them. James and Grace. It's honoring them by choosing to keep living, keep loving. Yeah. Cole pulled back enough to see her face. Yeah, exactly that. They stayed like that, foreheads touching, Lily between them, as the sun rose and painted the cabin walls gold. Finally, Cole spoke. When? When what? When do you want to get married? Rose thought about it, about waiting, about doing things properly, about giving the town time to adjust, about all the reasons they should wait. Then she thought about wasted time, about Grace dying young, about James never getting a chance to grow up, about how life was short and unpredictable, and waiting for the perfect moment meant missing the real ones. Today, Cole's eyes widened. Today? Why not? Rose smiled. Pastor Williams said he'd marry us. The town already thinks we're living in sin. Might as well make it official. Rose, are you sure? We could wait, do it proper, have a real wedding. I don't need proper. I need real. Rose held his gaze. And this is the realest thing I've felt since James died. So yeah, today, unless you want to wait. Hell no. Cole laughed, actually laughed. Today's perfect. Today's... He stopped. I need to ride to town. Get the pastor. Martha Henderson, too. She should be there. Grace would want that. All right. Rose shifted Lily to her shoulder. Go. We'll be here when you get back. Cole stood, started to leave, turned back, crossed to Rose and kissed her forehead, gentle, reverent. Thank you. His voice was thick. "For choosing us. For staying. Thank you for giving me a reason to." He left. Rose heard him moving in the main room. The sounds of boots being pulled on, coat, hat, the door opening and closing, hoofbeats fading, then silence. Rose looked down at Lily. The baby had finished nursing, was looking up at her with those serious gray eyes. Cole's eyes. "Well, little one, looks like I'm going to be your mama for real." Rose's voice shook. "Think your first mama would approve?" The question hung in the air. Rose half expected some sign, some feeling of Grace's presence, approval or anger or something. Instead, she felt peace. Just peace, like Grace was saying. About damn time. Rose smiled despite her tears. "All right then, let's get ready for a wedding." She dressed in the green wool dress, the one that had been Grace's. It felt right somehow, like Grace was there, part of this, giving her blessing in the only way she could. Rose brushed her hair until it shone, pinned it up simply. No fancy styling, no pretense. Just her, just Rose, soon to be Rose Brennan. The name felt foreign and right all at once. She was nursing Lily again when she heard horses, multiple horses. Her stomach clenched. What if Cole had changed his mind? What if the town had talked him out of it? But when the door opened, Cole stood there, grinning. Behind him, Pastor Williams, Martha Henderson, and surprisingly, Doc Morrison. Brought witnesses. Cole's eyes found hers, held. "Hope that's all right." More than all right. Rose stood, Lily in her arms. "I'm glad you're all here." Martha crossed to her immediately, took her hands. The older woman's eyes were wet. Grace would be so happy. Martha's voice was fierce. She worried constantly about Cole, about Lily, about what would happen if she didn't make it. And here you are, an answer to prayers she spoke out loud, and some she only whispered. Rose's throat closed. "You really think so?" "I know so." Martha squeezed her hands. "Now let's get you married before this man combusts from nerves." Everyone laughed. The tension broke. Pastor Williams opened his Bible. "Shall we begin?" It wasn't a traditional ceremony. No white dress, no flowers, no guests filling pews. Just 5 people and a baby crowded into a small cabin on a Montana ranch in the dead of winter. But it was perfect. The pastor kept it simple, asked the questions that mattered. Do you take this woman? Do you take this man? For better or worse? In sickness and health? Forsaking all others? Rose's voice shook when she said, "I do." But it was strong, certain. Cole's voice was rough, choked with emotion. But his "I do" rang clear. "The ring," Pastor Williams prompted. Cole pulled out the simple gold band, took Rose's hand. His fingers trembled as he slid it onto her finger. "With this ring, I thee wed." His eyes locked on hers. "I promise to love you, to stand by you, to be a good husband and father, to honor what we've both lost while building something new. I promise to fight for us, for all 3 of us, every single day." Those weren't the traditional words, but they were the right ones. Rose's turn. She didn't have a ring for him, hadn't thought about it. But she took his hand, held it between both of hers. "I promise to love you." Her voice was steady now. "To love Lily, to honor Grace's memory by being the best mother and wife I can be. I promise to be honest, to fight when we need to fight, and forgive when we need to forgive. I promise to choose us every day, even when it's hard." Pastor Williams smiled. "By the power vested in me by the territory of Montana and Almighty God, I now pronounce you husband and wife." He paused. "Cole, you may kiss your bride." Cole stepped closer, cupped Rose's face in his hands, and kissed her. It was soft, tender, nothing passionate or possessive, just a promise, a beginning. When they pulled apart, everyone was crying. Even Doc Morrison, who was pretending he had something in his eye. Martha hugged them both. "Welcome to the family, Rose Brennan." Rose Brennan. The name settled over her like a blanket. Warm, protective, home. They signed papers, made it legal. Pastor Williams promised to file everything properly, to tell the town, to defend them against any gossip. "Though I reckon most of the gossip will die down now," Martha said practically. "Can't fault a man for marrying quickly when his baby needs a mother. That's just good sense. Some will still talk." Doc Morrison's voice was gruff. "But let them. You've got friends who'll stand by you. That's what matters." After the witnesses left, Rose and Cole stood in the cabin, married, legal, together. "So," Cole's voice was uncertain. "What now?" Rose looked at Lily, at the cradle, at the small cabin that was now her home, at the man who was now her husband. "Now we live," she smiled. "We take care of our daughter. We run this ranch. We love each other. We figure it out as we go." "You make it sound simple." "Maybe it is." Rose moved closer. "Maybe we've been making it complicated because we thought we had to. But maybe it's just this: two broken people choosing to heal together, choosing family, choosing love." Cole pulled her close, careful of Lily between them. "I like that." "Me too." They stood like that as evening fell, as the fire burned low, as Lily slept, and the world outside turned cold and white. But inside, there was warmth. There was love. There was a family born from loss and grief and desperate choice. The first weeks were adjustment, learning to share space as husband and wife instead of grieving strangers. Learning what marriage meant when it was built on a foundation of necessity and grown into something real. Cole slept on the floor the first 3 nights, insisting Rose take the bed, until Rose finally told him that was ridiculous. "We're married." She tried to sound practical, failed, sounded nervous. "We can share a bed without it meaning anything we're not ready for." So they shared the bed, careful at first, staying to their own sides, but gradually moving closer, until one morning Rose woke with Cole's arm around her waist, his breath warm on her neck. She didn't move, didn't want to break the moment, just lay there feeling safe, wanted, whole. When Cole woke, he started to pull away, embarrassed. Rose caught his hand, kept it where it was. "It's okay." "Yeah?" "Yeah." That night, Cole held her while they slept, and every night after. The town talked, of course, but less than expected. Some people smiled, offered congratulations. Others turned away, refused to speak. Rose learned to live with both. Martha Henderson became a fierce defender, shut down gossip with sharp words and sharper looks. Doc Morrison, too. Even Pastor Williams used a Sunday sermon to talk about grace and second chances and not judging others' grief. It helped. Slowly the scandal faded, became old news, something that had happened but wasn't happening anymore. Rose and Cole were just another married couple, raising a baby, running a ranch, living. Lily grew, started rolling over, then sitting up, then crawling. She said "Mama" at 6 months. Rose cried for an hour. Cole held her while she wept. "That's you. You're her mama." But Grace gave her life. You gave her life too. Different ways. Both count. He kissed her temple. "You're her mama, Rose, and don't ever doubt that." Lily said "Papa" a week later. Cole cried too, though he tried to hide it. Rose pretended not to notice, just held his hand while they watched their daughter play. Their daughter. Not just Lily, not just Cole's baby, theirs. Spring came. The snow melted. The ranch came back to life. Cole taught Rose to ride, to help with cattle, to shoot a rifle. Montana women need to be tough, he grinned. Think you can handle it? Rose thought about everything she'd survived. Her husband's death, James's death, walking through a blizzard, nursing a stranger's baby, fighting for love when everyone said it was too soon. Yeah, she grinned back. I can handle it. Summer brought heat and work and long days, but also laughter, picnics by the creek, teaching Lily to splash in shallow water, watching Cole's face when their daughter giggled. Fall brought harvest, preparation for winter, and something else. Rose realized she was late. She didn't say anything at first, didn't want to hope. But when she missed a second month, she couldn't hide it anymore. Cole, her voice shook. I think I'm pregnant. He dropped the wood he was carrying, stared at her. You're... I think so. I'm not sure, but She pressed a hand to her stomach. I think so. Cole crossed to her in 2 strides, pulled her close. His whole body was shaking. Are you happy? I know it's fast. I know we're still figuring things out. I'm terrified. He pulled back to see her face. But yeah, I'm happy. So damn happy. Rose started crying, relief and joy and fear all tangled together. What if something goes wrong? What if I lose this baby too? What if? We'll face it together. Cole's voice was firm. Whatever happens, we face it together. That's what family means. Family. Yes, that's exactly what they were. Doc Morrison confirmed it a week later. Rose was due in spring, healthy. Everything looked good. Take care of yourself. Doc's eyes were kind. Rest when you can. Eat well. Let Cole help. Cole hovered constantly, drove Rose half crazy with his worrying. I'm fine, she laughed. Women have babies all the time. Not my women. His voice was fierce. I lost Grace. I won't lose you too. Rose softened, took his face in her hands. You won't. I promise. I'm stronger than I look. I know. He kissed her palm. Doesn't stop me worrying. The baby, a boy, came in late April. Fast labor, healthy delivery. Doc Morrison said it was the easiest birth he'd seen in years. Cole held his son and wept. He looks like you. He looks like James. Rose's voice was thick. Can we? James Cole Brennan, Cole said immediately. For both of them. The boys we lost and the family we built. Rose nodded, couldn't speak through tears. Lily, almost 2 now, was fascinated by her baby brother. Wanted to hold him constantly, tried to feed him, covered him in kisses. Gentle, Rose laughed. You have to be gentle with babies. Baby, Lily announced proudly. My baby. Yes, sweetheart, your baby brother. They were a family, real and whole and permanent. 2 years later, another baby, a girl this time. They named her Grace Margaret, for Cole's first wife and Rose's mother. Think Grace would mind? Rose asked. Us naming our daughter after her? I think she'd be honored. Cole held tiny Grace Margaret carefully. I think she'd love that part of her lives on, that Lily has a sister, named for her first mama. Rose thought so too. The years passed, fast and slow, all at once. Lily grew into a smart, strong girl who could ride and rope and wasn't afraid of anything. James Cole was quiet and thoughtful, always watching, always thinking. Grace Margaret was wild and laughing and kept them all running. The ranch prospered. Cole expanded, bought more land, hired hands, built a bigger house. Though they kept the cabin, used it for storage. But sometimes Rose would go there, stand in the small space where her life had changed. where she'd knocked on a door in a blizzard and found everything she'd lost and everything she didn't know she needed. 10 years after that first night, Martha Henderson threw a party, an anniversary celebration for Cole and Rose. The whole town came, even the ones who'd gossiped, who'd judged. They came with food and gifts and smiles. Pastor Williams, older now, his hair white, stood to give a toast. 10 years ago, I almost made a terrible mistake. His voice carried across the crowd. I almost let propriety destroy something sacred, almost let judgment win over grace. He raised his glass. To Cole and Rose, who taught this old preacher that love doesn't follow schedules, that family comes in unexpected forms, that sometimes God's plan looks nothing like what we expect, and that's okay. Everyone cheered, drank. Cole pulled Rose close. No regrets. Rose looked around at their 3 children playing, at the home they'd built, at the life they'd created from broken pieces. Not a single one, she smiled. You? Only that I didn't kiss you sooner. He demonstrated right there in front of everyone. The crowd laughed and cheered. Later, after everyone left, after the children were asleep, Cole and Rose stood on their porch, looking out at land that stretched to the horizon. Do you think about them? Rose asked quietly. Grace and James? Every day. Cole's arm tightened around her waist, but not with pain anymore, with gratitude. They brought us here, to each other, to this. Yeah. Rose leaned into him. Yeah, they did. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled. The stars wheeled overhead. The Montana wind whispered through pine trees. And in a house built from grief and choice and stubborn love, a family slept. Not perfect, not traditional, not what anyone would have planned, but theirs. Real, whole, home. Rose McKenna. No, Rose Brennan had knocked on a stranger's door, expecting nothing but shelter from a storm. Instead, she'd found salvation, purpose, family. She'd found love when she thought love was done with her. Had found a daughter who needed her as much as she needed to be needed. Had found a man who understood that healing wasn't betrayal, that moving forward wasn't forgetting. And Cole Brennan, who'd opened his door expecting death, had found life instead. Had found a woman brave enough to grieve and love simultaneously. Had found hope in the form of a stranger who gave everything without being asked. They'd built something impossible, something beautiful, something that proved love doesn't have a timeline, doesn't ask permission, doesn't wait for the world to be ready. Love just is. And sometimes, if you're desperate enough, and brave enough, and broken enough to accept it, love is enough, more than enough.